Hey, Sam fans! I wanted to start this episode by shouting out our two certified Sam stands from Patreon, Killabee and Temple Woods. Thanks for subscribing, you guys. And if any of you other listeners would like to support us on Patreon, we have 5 subscription tiers to choose from with tons of awesome extras for you, including early access to weekly episodes, live blogging with other Sam fans and the hosts, 2 extra Patreon podcast episodes per month, and much, much more. Check it out and enjoy this episode of A Sam Girl Retrospective.
Hello. Can you hear my fan over my microphone?
No.
Good.
You can see mine though in the Christy has pink hair, y'all.
My hair is only pink back here.
Y'all have the coolest hair I've ever seen I look like a literal potato today. I don't think I've washed it all week. Look at this.
I got my mullet going on.
Today was my first wash of the week. I stink like dog, so.
Okay, so Christy, y'all say hi, by the way. This is episode 2.
Hello.
That's Al. Christy, you can't wave. It's an audio.
Oh,
it's
sorry.
Audio.
That's Christy's voice.
But okay. I am.
There she is. No, I'm definitely going to have to put your cool pink hair on the carousel, the visuals carousel, and Elle's cool new, like, bright blonde Is it platinum? Are we moving towards pink? Are you gonna color it?
It's pink back it's like it's an undercut, but instead of cutting it, it's just dyed pink. So it's like shortish here, along in it's a girl mullet.
I love it.
And then the lower half is an undercut of pink.
I love it so much. I couldn't remember if you were getting it light and so you could then go in and put more color over the top, or if you're just keeping it that light color.
She had to concoct rose gold for me in the back room. And now I have a pink color depositing conditioner.
Yeah.
So I like split my hair in half. I do the toner shampoo and conditioner on the top and the pink leave-in on the bottom. It's a ridiculous shower exercise, but it works.
I love when our salon experts become chemists because they have to find the right color. And then I love the like upkeep shenanigans we have to get up to.
Yeah.
Y'all both have my dream hair. As a teacher, I'm not allowed to have weird colored hair. So like the kookiest I can go is like a bright shade of red.
They haven't given me a hard time for it yet. And the superintendent said hello to me, so.
Hell yeah. Well, good for you because they have gotten more lenient where I'm at for years. And we just got a new superintendent and he's a little bit more like old school conservative on like dress code stuff. He's like good. He's a good addition to our district because we're in financial crises in my district and he's going to fix it. But the payment for that is we no longer can have weird hair. And if we do, we have to kind of fly under the radar, I think. And so I'm just like, well, I already pay a lot for this red. I'm just going to keep it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right now, the gymnastics my hair is doing is like keeping all of these grays from being seen. So
this is the beauty of being a natural blonde, like darker than this, but still a natural blonde, is that my hair, A, it's not going gray, it's going white and silver.
Love that
and
for you.
B, it just kind of blends in. It's kind of nice.
My hair has been colored for so long that I couldn't tell you if I have any grays coming in or not.
Yeah, it's because if they do come in your roots, you won't be able to tell because your roots are blonde. Mine are like this. I have this like, I told all my friends that I think it's like a toneless brown, like it's almost an anti-color. That's how boring I think my hair is. Aww. And it's dark enough that when it comes in, it looks like stars in my roots because there's so many fucking gray hair.
Okay, but I love that.
I'm like, wow, cool, but also, I'm not even 40 yet, and I have like all my hair is curly now, like a ton of it's curly. And I was talking to Kimmy. Sorry, this is becoming a hair discussion. But I was talking to Kimmy, she's my hairstylist, and I was like, "Hey, my hair is like starting to get curly, like it's like changing." And she was like, "I'm gonna hold my hand when I tell you this." She's like, "It's because your hair is gray now." She's like, "It changes texture because you're growing in a bunch of gray." And she was like, "You can't tell because it's red all the time." She's like a magician, but I was like, "Oh, well, okay." So I was like excited because I was like, "Oh, my hair is changing to be curly." I thought it was like aging like into my hormones or something. And she was like, "No, you're just getting gray hair." And I was like, "Well, that's what happens when you teach freshmen for 17 years."
I was
So
gonna say
Yeah,
that's
no
being a
kidding.
teacher.
You've earned it.
I've earned the
You've
curly hair.
earned your silver award.
Yeah, no, I was telling her when it gets bad enough, I am going to go blonde. And that way it's just going to blend in. My roots will come through dark, but the lightness of the grays will just blend in with the rest. So
Yep.
that's my plan. Anyways, now that
It's
we've
a good
gotten
plan.
right, now that we've gotten the very imperative like hair conversation out of the way, we can get into actual business. We got our stateside hosts in the chat this time for episode 2. And I didn't realize my stateside hosts were both natural blondes. That's so cool. Good for you. How does it feel to be God's favorite? Okay. So we're we're gonna talk about
Not great. If this is what it feels like, not great.
yeah, he should treat me better, right? If I'm his favorite. Okay, we're gonna talk about episode 3 of season 2, Bloodlust first. We're doing 2. And I have, for some reason, I have like two full pages of notes on Bloodlust. So let's just get into it. I'm gonna recap this episode. It is an episode that includes Sterling K. Brown, who is one of the most beautiful men I've ever seen in my life. And has one of the most beautiful, like soothing voices I've ever heard in my life. So like I enjoyed this a lot more than the first time through the series because when I first saw this episode, I didn't know who he was, and he wasn't really in a ton of stuff. And then like got his career blew up, was in like Black Panther, and then he was in This Is Us, and like he's getting his flowers as he deserves. He's incredible in this episode as a guy who's very scary. So the cold open, I guess, is like you think it's supposed to be a monster that decapitates people. Because in the cold open, a woman is afraid and then she gets decapitated by like a mysterious figure. But you eventually find out it's actually a vampire hunting episode, and that it is Gordon, who Sterling K. Brown plays, hunting vampires, and that the woman in the beginning was a vampire who was decapitated by him. There's a whole like autopsy, like morgue scene where the boys sneak in and they have to pretend to be doctors, and they find out through poking around her dead mouth that she has fangs, and so that's how they realize it's a vampire situation. Dean and Sam run into Gordon, and Gordon and Dean make fast friends. Sam is never comfortable with it. They have many conversations that are disturbing, that reveal like Dean's kind of like raw nerves and how he's kind of taking things out on the job. And specifically, there's like a chainsaw scene at the beginning where he like enjoys decapitating a vampire with a chainsaw, and Sam is very disturbed. And so the series continues with basically Sam being kidnapped by the vampire, and they're like, "Hey man, we need you to know, like, we know you're hunting us, but can you stop because we're like vegetarian, like we're not hurting anyone." And the main vampire is Lenore, who we love from Buffy. And Vic made sure she was like, please shout out when you get to her. So like we love her from Buffy. So does Vic. She misses Lenore a great deal. She wishes she could be here. And and so they take Sam back, and Sam's like, "Hey Dean, like we shouldn't hunt them." They get into an argument because Dean, of course, wants to hunt them because he's in the middle of like really connecting with Gordon on the fact that seeing things black and white makes everything much easier. So in the end, they go to the nest because Gordon overhears them. They chase him down, and Dean has to make the difficult decision to side with Sam, which I'm like, why is it so hard for you to side with Sam? But whatever, we'll get to that. They find out that Gordon actually didn't kill a vampire earlier in the story because the vampire hurt his sister, but that it was his sister as a vampire, which was his first kill, which makes him an absolute psychopath. But does dovetail like into way. I think that's it. Did I leave anything out? I think that was it. I was like,
If you did, we'll figure it out as we
yeah.
talk
Yeah.
about it.
I was like,
Oh, sorry. Let me know if you hear anything.
I can hear. Yeah, I could hear him. That's why I knew to look and be like, "Hi, Alex's pants."
Okay, hold on.
Oh, there's the baby. Did you see how long?
It's
So
amazing.
long. I
It's
know.
amazing. I have hair envy.
That's where he gets his blonde hairs from. All right. About Q's long hair.
Oh, yes.
He must have
Yeah.
gotten the blonde from you.
Yeah, because Alex is a very
Your
dark.
genes are strong.
I was resigned to not having a child that looked anything like me,
Instead, he's like a
and
tiny hobbit baby
I did my job.
with that light hair and curly hair. It's
It's just
precious.
long curly hair. Yeah.
Love
Anyway,
that. Okay, so Bloodlust. My first note was that I'm skipping past the part where I say Sterling K. Brown is beautiful. I've already talked about that. Was distracted by him because I couldn't pay attention to the cold open because I was so excited to see him. And then here it is, L, the first no Iron Man music. They're listening
I
to AC/DC.
my first note after notes about the cold open is, oh my God, the original music. Thank fuck. It's so
Yeah.
nice to be in season
Yeah.
2.
I'm
Yeah.
so glad for you. I didn't realize that it was only season 1. I thought I was in for like a world of pain, which is why I dropped like $150 on the box set. But I don't regret it. I don't regret it.
I feel like
I own the box set.
this is one of those really iconic openings too. Like when I
Mhm.
think of the show's openings, it's that one.
Yes.
Yes.
The cold open, like you were saying when in the summary, I love cases where there's a twist about who the real bad guy is. And this one it's a little bit tricky because then the good guy is kind of the bad guy, but
Yeah, it's misdirection, and they do a
it's
great job with it.
yeah, it's like double misdirection, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because she actually is the innocent who is getting killed by the theoretical bad guy,
And yet is still a monster.
but she's the monster and he's the hunter. So it's like double misdirect.
It's such a perfect way to write the hold open for this because it's just like it is visually and literally the conversation that they're having. Like, is a monster someone who's doing something bad? Or is a monster like physically, like genetically a monster? You know what I'm saying? And then if a monster who's genetically a monster is it doesn't do anything bad, do they still deserve to die? And is a human who they're not usually allowed to touch doing something evil, should they be taken out? And so I really love the way that they open this episode because it's not heavy-handed. It's like just a nice like display of here's what we're going to discuss today. And I don't know, I just really liked it.
It's, on that same token, it's like the way that they set it up so that Dean is getting a look at what his future could be if he starts going the things that aren't human are evil, which is something he's worried about because he's worried about Sam's situation and what that makes him if he is something that's not quite human,
Right.
then he is setting himself up. This dude even kills his sibling.
Which is like
Like,
Dean's biggest fear right now is like, what if Sam, based on whatever John said to him, is like, what if Sam becomes the thing,
right.
like with Gordon?
And does he just become another Gordon who creeps out everyone he talks to?
Well, and exactly. And I think it's really interesting because we spent a lot of time in season 1 discussing Dean's like feeling that like his job is his duty and like he doesn't have a choice and that like Sam is the opposite and feels like, yes, we do have a choice. And that bleeds into this conversation, which is why I think he has so much fear of it, where it's like, if Sam becomes that, I don't have a choice.
Right.
And Sam's the opposite, where it's like, if I'm made into this against my will by like a demon, then I absolutely will have a choice to stop it. And so like I don't know in these few episodes about like I started so early, like I don't know how to do anything else. Like um I feel like a lot of his fear about Sam is that he feels he won't have a choice. And he's hoping that like he won't have to like face um that moment where what he feels will be like no choice but to do whatever it is that he's afraid to do.
I agree.
And I was like, now we're all just gonna stare at each other. No, okay. Let's also talk about this is another thing I said that it's not deep or anything, but I just hate that disgusting, ugly ass gray, light blue vertical striped shirt. Why does it exist? Why is it constantly in the show? Like it's like the fourth time we've seen it. And so like the next scene where Sam has like slick back hair and he's in that beige suit, I was like, save me, beige suit, save me. Like I love that outfit, but I was just like, that it's gonna take a hit on my ratings because I hate that fucking shirt so much.
That's so funny.
But I do think we're seeing Dean call the Impala baby for the first time in the show in this episode.
Mm.
Hmm.
Oh yeah, I think so. This is it during the first scene where they're back on the road in a fixed up baby?
Yeah. It's like the
Um,
first time he's taking it for a joyride after it's been what he considers season one, it's his dad's car. And then now he's finally rebuilt it. And now I
it's
think
his
he's
car.
like, it's his car. And now he like,
Rebuilding it kind of functions as transferring ownership.
yeah, it's like it is it's his child. It's his baby. Like he birthed it.
Yeah, gross. I mean, I love road scenes in general. I don't think anyone's surprised
Hmm.
by that, but at this first scene with baby all fixed up and they're on the road and the brothers are back and they're smiling and they make a little joke about how much mutilation cheers Dean right up and and then
Yeah, Sam's just watching him like, dude, I'm a little freaked out by how good of a mood you're in.
and then Dean is like, how far is the place that we're going? Sam says something like about 300 miles. And Dean's face when he says, good, it's just like, it's so satisfying because he wants to sit in his car and drive it and hang out with his brother and just that's normal to him. So he's like, yeah, I'm gonna enjoy driving my car. Like
Yeah.
I I really loved everything about that exchange because
Hmm.
they're joking together. There's like real brothers feels going
Mhm.
on.
Yeah.
There's weird hunter humor that shouldn't be funny. There's like cute hair, there's like big eyes, there's a sense of home, and I love scenes like that.
The
And the
the
color is
beginning
great.
the beginning of this episode, like the dynamic between the two of them was so much fun, which is wild when we think at the end of the episode. But
Oh yeah.
like the car scene, and then we have them interviewing the cop. And
With this big mustache.
That cop is so funny.
He's
I did
great.
not realize how funny that scene was until I was rewatching it. And I had to like keep rewinding to watch the scene with them trying to remember the name of their newspaper.
Yes, and at the end, Dean is just like, "Oh, I'm new." Like
I'm new.
pitch perfect. This
It's
is
so
when
good.
Jensen really starts like
Yeah.
his comedy chops are really coming through.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
And
I
then
so
love
with the head, like them arguing over the head.
like, Dean, get me a bucket. Why did you find something? No, I'm gonna
no,
puke.
I'm gonna puke.
I mean, fair. It's really
Uh,
gross in the morgue.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
super gross. But I love when they find the fangs, like pressing a little bit makes them kind of come out. Like that's
Yeah.
another little bit of world building lore that I
Hmm.
love, like what the mechanism for that. Because there's a ton of vampire shows that never go into the mechanism for how the
Right.
teeth work. They just are like fangs come out, the
Right.
end. But I'm like, ooh, this is like the biology of vampires and how that works.
Okay, so
So interesting to me.
this is the opposite to me though, because okay, first of all, this is a good thing. 5 minutes in, we're already two different disguises. So like, hooray. It's like they knew that shirt would piss me off, so they were like, it's okay, boom, boom. You get two different cool like costumes. But then I'm like, so when they did an autopsy on this woman, did the technician just like not notice there was a weird thing going on with her teeth? Like, I just feel like if it's normal for vampire heads to end up in a morgue, someone somewhere has to have discovered fangs. And so I thought that was interesting, where all they had to do was go bloop. And I was like, come on, someone has figured out that there are
Right. I was gonna
vampires.
say, oh, well, how many autopsies include like checking the teeth, but a
If
ton
it's
of
a
them would.
yeah, and if
It's
it's
a
a
Most of them,
decapitated
yeah.
head,
decapitation,
or if there's no idea who this person could be, then you're gonna do dental records. I mean, if it's a decapitation, then you're looking at like, okay, this is weird as shit, and maybe it's a serial killer, and the first thing you do is whatever you saw on TV, which is, oh, check for a note in the mouth, which I actually think they did that here too. And that's
yeah,
how Sam found it. Like,
yeah,
you're right,
because
you're right.
they reference Silence of the Lambs.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, because that's
Yeah.
exactly what they do.
yep,
But I mean, it's fine. But
you're right.
then I think in terms of like what would Elle say to fix this, and I'm thinking, okay, well maybe across like the nation or whatever, one of the major ways that vampires can like fit into society is work night shifts as autopsy technicians. And that way, like if a vampire comes in, they can like fudge the paperwork a little bit.
Discreetly,
Yeah,
yeah.
just be like normal teeth or whatever.
I mean, I think for any supernatural being, there are ideal professions that can help you blend in. Like, you're the creepy autopsy guy. Nobody expects you to go out and have a
Yeah.
daytime party life,
Yeah.
because
And it's okay
because
that you're pale and kind of wrong every day.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Vampires,
So
we got you. We know what kind
and
of job you should get.
and you can protect against people finding out about your kind. My other thought is, if hunters are the majority of the people killing vampires because they're the ones that know vampires exist, then they are probably also cleaning up behind them. Gordon isn't, because he's a psychopath.
Ugh.
But most hunters are like, okay, kill the vampire. We can't let people find this thing out here. So, take care of it.
Even thought about that, but you're right. That's like such a like reckless thing to do, to just be like,
Right.
bye. And like civilians just happen upon the decapitated man. You're supposed to burn them, aren't you?
I think the safe thing is to burn all of the supernatural creatures that you
Yeah.
can.
I think that's what they did in whatever the dead man's blood was. So Gordon, he's not even good at his
I
job.
know.
Right.
Gordon has lost the plot. Gordon is a good killer, but not a good hunter, I would say.
Yes, and that's
Yes.
a distinction that he really goes into. Like, I don't want to go into the roadhouse, but there's that conversation that he does have with Dean is like, Sam's not like us. He's not a killer. And I feel
Ooh.
like I don't feel like people who hunt animals consider themselves killers. They do be killing. But like, you know what I mean? They're not out there like, yeah, I get to kill. They're like I'm hunting. Like I'm gonna bring back a deer or whatever. You know what I mean? I feel like Dean before this conversation with Gordon would view himself as a hunter, like I'm getting rid of the evil spirits or whatever.
Right.
And Gordon very pointedly makes it about killing and that have a little fun on the job, Sammy, like that it's fun to kill. And it's like, wait, what are we doing here? What are we
Well,
what
yeah, and that's a conversation that happens between Dean and Sam, where Dean is like, "That's what we do, Sam. We kill things," and Sam is like, "No, it's not what we do.
we
We
kill
hunt
evil.
evil."
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Hello, yes, you're kind of." It's like without John, he has to find somebody else's philosophy to kind of buy into,
And
and
that's
he buys
exactly what
into it
Sam says.
so quick. Like,
Oh yeah.
he's right. He's like, "Oh yeah, you're right. I am a killer." No, Dean. chill out, man.
And he's such a it's kind of frightening to me because Sam's like, you're trying to replace dad with Gordon. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, and at first I was like, this is kind of, to me, it felt forced. Like the writing felt forced. Not that it was bad, but I was just like, Sam really is like jumping to it on this. But like it was very clearly true. I was just
Yeah.
like, he knows his brother, he knows what he's doing. It's just insane that this is what Dean is doing. Like it's not
Well,
a it's not an assumption to be that he jumped to this conclusion. It's that Dean is just that outrageous.
another instance of the writing kind of going to it very quickly when he says, Ellen says this guy's bad news, and Dean's like, oh, why would we trust Ellen? We barely know her. And Sam's like, as opposed to Gordon, our longtime friend.
Of
Like,
like 7 hours.
right? Like, come on, man. Like,
I
Dean
know.
had to know when it was coming out of his mouth how ridiculous it was. Like,
Well,
but
I
yeah.
literally wrote, I was like, what did I say? I said like the misogyny of saying I would rather trust this man I've known for 5 hours over a woman that we've known for
Mhm.
weeks. Like I was just like, well, of course you would believe a man. Like you're not going to believe Ellen. Why would you trust a woman that you only just met, I don't know, weeks ago? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it was very, I mean, I know in it's not innate, but it's possibly it's easy to imply that that is what's going on,
Yeah.
especially because we know men wrote the show. So like,
It like the writing wasn't necessarily clunky, but you could tell they had a mission they were trying to get to with this episode,
yeah.
and they were going to force the dialogue and the boys
Hmm.
to get there in 42 minutes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you're right. I also wrote down, I said, does every hunter have a muscle car from the 60s or 70s? Because
Yes, I wrote that down too.
That's funny.
this Gordon's is like this old like Mustang that's bright red. I swear to God, from like the 70s. And I was like,
It's part of hunter culture.
okay, but I made a lot of notes about all the episodes I watched the last 2 days. I watched four, and they all just scream Gen X male fantasy. Like they're all written like where all the girls that they like the same music as men who grew up in that time frame. The cars that are around are like these super cool, like with Gordon. Like it's just elements of like this is very much you can tell like a guy who really likes these things is continuing to write it this way because
Yes.
that's his taste.
Yeah, and
It's not a bad
it's
thing. It's just obvious to me.
it strikes me as a little bit odd because Dean himself is at the very, very tail end of Gen X. Dean and I are the same age, and
Right.
I'm an Xennial.
Right.
Like,
On
I
the other
didn't.
side.
Oh, right.
We've
Um,
had that conversation, but yeah.
yeah. Um, so when he's talking about like he talks about this like classic rock music, I'm like, I mean, I grew up hoping my parents wouldn't play it in the car because I wanted to listen to more modern music. Like that all their references are dated even for what they are, and it just
It
I I,
is.
I kind of accept it as John would only play that and was super controlling of the radio or
Well,
something. But
and
that
here
every other hunter also buys into that is kind
that's
of
what
weird
I'm
to me.
saying. That's what's
Yeah.
weird. It makes sense when it's Dean who loves his dad, and that's why he loves his Impala. And he loves classic rock because that's what he grew up listening to with his dad. And I think I saw a meme because I'm the same way. And Vic's gonna be mad at me again for saying Dean, oldest daughter Dean or whatever. But like there's a meme that's like if you were born between this time and this time and you're close to your dad, I bet these are your favorite classic rock bands. And they listed them. And I was like, shit, those are my favorite classic rock bands. Like, it really comes down to like, I love those things because I listen to them with my dad. And they're all the same
Yeah.
things that Dean listens to, which is why I love like when he has Foreigner on or he has Journey, he has Styx is a big one. There's another one. Is it not the ball game? Outfield. He has like a song Jensen actually sings at conventions is by the Outfield, which I used to listen to with my dad. And so like I get it,
Mhm.
but when it extends to like other hunters and then like Eventually, Joe is putting on REO Speedwagon. It's like, what are we doing? Is the whole world just John's taste?
I definitely have comments on Joe when we get there.
Yeah, I know. I'm getting ahead of myself, but that one comment about his car made me go, do they understand that they're actually just inserting their own taste into something instead of actually making it make sense within their world building? Because
Yeah.
not everyone's going to have the same kind of like weird old car in the early
How
2000s.
how do they have the money to keep these up? Like
Yeah,
those
that's a
are
good point.
expensive as hell to get fixed up, but every hunter has one.
Yeah, and it's like, do you all go to Bobby's junkyard?
Well, I kind of live in an apartment in town, like in the city, and I have to take my car to this dude.
Yeah,
Like,
Dean, not all of us have junkyard privilege, okay?
junkyard
Some
privilege.
some of us as hunters should probably be driving like a practical Subaru or something.
Right?
Oh my God.
An SUV, something.
Should we talk about the chainsaw moment?
Oh my God.
Ugh.
Yeah. Yeah, we should.
All right, do it.
I'm
Take us
scared of it.
away. Well,
I
I want to hear from Christy. Tell me.
The major thing that I had written down was weirdly convenient chainsaw.
Where were they? What was that for?
Was
Was it
that
supposed to
was that
be
a
like
mill or something?
I thought like an auto body shop?
Oh, I
Like the
assumed like a
vampire just
mill.
minding his own business in the middle of the night and we're gonna come up and try and that was another like really good twist on the we see him being hunted
Yeah.
by someone.
Yeah.
And it turns out the vampire is yeah.
Yeah. So like Gordon goes around the corner following the Winchesters and the camera goes up to him and around him and back. And then we turn around with him and then he gets ambushed by the Winchesters. So he's like
Yeah.
the one who's getting
It
I knew
ambushed.
it was happening and I still got jump scared
Yeah, I was like, oh,
by the
there they
Winchesters
are. Yeah.
Winchestering.
it was a really good framing of like who we have to worry about as the bad guy
Yeah.
for this episode, the way that they kept doing that. Like I loved that twist on things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like
Also,
a visual way to tell us like we should still be kind of creeped out by this guy, even
Mhm,
despite what
mhm.
he says.
he said, Gordon said
Mhm.
that he had heard of John and it sounded like he like admired him. He was a good hunter. And I'm thinking, considering how many folks in the hunting world John had a falling out with, it should say something about Gordon that he admires John.
Oh,
I
Like that
because
should be red flag.
we find out so many things about John in the next few episodes, and they're all bad. And except old. And I never thought about that, but you're totally
yeah. But Gordon also like has this snark to him about like, oh, your dad didn't teach you everything, huh? When it comes to hunting the vampires.
right.
Um,
Yeah,
it
that's true.
makes it really interesting what view he must have had of him.
Well, and I get the idea that Gordon has a lot of experience with vampires where a lot of hunters don't. Like doesn't I forget her character name, but doesn't
Lenore?
Lenore or the person she's talking to makes a point of saying that
Ty
vampires
Oslin or
are
whatever?
oh yeah,
It's
Benny.
him, Benny.
Makes a point of saying that they're like an endangered species.
We back. We did it.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, we were going to talk about the chainsaw scene. Did we ever actually do that?
I think we just
Started a
said,
little above it, I
yeah.
think.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I guess let's talk about like the conversation they have about the chainsaw because we're at the bar, right, with the two of them and Sam, and they're talking, and Sam is kind of sitting kind of like to the side, like, fuck this, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Dean's like, you okay, man? And he's like, yeah, I'm fine. And I think Dean calls him Sammy, like lighten up, Sammy. And
Mhm.
then Gordon's like, yeah, Sammy, lighten up. And he's like, he's the only one who gets to call
Immediately.
me that.
immediately.
Yep.
Baby setting
Yep.
boundaries, as he used to do. And they start kind of having this conversation. And I love that Sam kind of, once he realizes like Dean is leaning into Gordon's narrative, he's like, okay, I'm gonna go. Because
Yeah.
he's not interested in having this debate. Like he knows where he stands, and he's like, I will only have this conversation with Dean because I care about him, but fuck Gordon.
Right.
And so I think one of the things that was most concerning about that conversation is the like try to have a little fun with your job kind of situation. And like decapitation should not be fun. Like,
Right.
oh, these are evil beings, so we get to decapitate them. Like, no, it should be very upsetting that that's how violent
Yeah.
our job
Mhm.
Like,
is.
thank God for evil beings. Otherwise, I'd have to decapitate other people. Like, why do you like
Yeah.
decapitating so much, bro? And Sam says something to that effect, like, I guess I don't find decapitation super exciting or whatever.
Yeah, he's like, it's not really something I consider to be fun. And they're
Yeah.
like, oh my God, lighten up. And it's like, I
Like
just,
anybody would jump at the chance to decapitate if they had the
it's
option.
really frightening. And so I think when you break the conversation, the dialogue down like that, it's supposed to kind of hit. Think if you don't dig into it too deep, like, Sam's the naggy mom friend, and then Dean's just trying to lighten up with the boys. And it's like,
Mhm.
I'm sorry, but like locker room talk should never be about how like fun it is to murder something and like thank God our
Right.
job allows us to. But I also wanted to point out that Dean went from last season, it scares me how much I would do anything to save the two of you, to oh now I just like to chainsaw decapitate things for fun in less
Yeah.
than a season. Like we went from him being self-aware enough to be like, it scares me that I'm willing to do this to get over it, Sam. Like live a little.
Yeah.
He even says, remind me to beat that buzzkill out of you later.
I
Like,
had that my next
super
note is that,
casual. Yep.
which is fucked up because at this point they haven't really been that violent. Like Dean hasn't really been that violent with him at all. Like I don't think he's hit him at all. He will hit him for the first time in this episode.
Yeah.
Like what are we saying? Like I
Yeah.
don't know. It's a very strong shift. And Vic pointed this out in the first episode of season 2 that like it feels like episode 1 and 2 season 2 is really wrapping up season 1. And then season 2 with the shift in Dean's character, it really begins in 3. And I think she's absolutely right because after John dies, and then Dean has to figure out how he's going to deal with it or not deal with it, rather. This is the direction he's chosen, and this is the
Mhm.
shift.
Right. These two episodes that we're talking about, but this one, the next one, feel like they're really setting up Dean's entire mentality for this season.
Hmm. And for the rest of
Um,
the series,
mhm.
Mhm.
and it doesn't, we don't like it.
No.
Does not feel good.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
The next thing I kind of touched on in my notes was that Dean is talking to Gordon and is telling the story of like a time he was 16, the day of his first kill, and Sam was 12 waiting in the car. And so it was like he embraced the life, but really like he just didn't have a choice. He was a child handed a gun.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I thought the narrative is really good at weaving the parallels and twists. Like it goes from you know, what you think is a parallel of a brother protecting his sibling to a brother hunting and killing his sibling after dehumanizing them into a monster in his head. Like that is going to play out with Sam and Dean, but we watch the entire arc of that actually play out
Mhm.
as we learn more about Gordon in this one episode. And I just think it's a really interesting way they kind of weave that into the narrative.
Yeah. I
It's
enjoy that a lot, telling the story in like micro form
mhm.
that we
Right.
don't get to know the full scope of until the whole season goes.
It's so interesting with Gordon hearing him talk about the vampire, his sister, and consistently referring to the vampire as it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Dehumanizing it every time.
Yep.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and with
And
how that's going to play in. to the rest of the season. It's just such a fascinating distinction that they've made here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's why it's so important, like when Sam is taken by the vampires, by Lenore, and he sits and talks to her and he's like, I don't trust y'all. Y'all are monsters. Like you kill. Like, how am I supposed to believe that you don't hurt people? And she's like trying to explain, like, we didn't choose to be vampires. We were made to be vampires. So instead of killing people, we just uh, uh fuck up some cows sometime, like she's explaining it to him and it makes sense, but I get why Sam is like, I was taught this isn't
Mhm.
possible. And so when they bring him back, he's like, I have a duty to themselves, a different path despite what was done to them, to like stick up for them, to these two guys who wouldn't blink twice at killing them and in fact are looking forward to killing them.
Mhm.
And I think it speaks towards Sam's character, like it's why we love him. But I also think again we're watching this dichotomy of the two sides of the argument play out because we know that Sam feels out of control about his own situations, specifically about the psychic children. We also learn a lot about Dean from talking to strangers, but like he has to keep his game face on, he says, to talk to Sam, but like all
I
this
know.
means is he's being a dick all the time, and then he can admit the real stuff to a stranger that he just met that he's not handling his death very
Yeah.
well.
Oh,
Which
he admits to a complete perfect stranger that he can't talk about his grief with his own brother, but he can with you.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah,
yeah,
kind of a nut job.
it's going to be another episode before we have any sort of payoff between
Yeah.
Dean and Sam.
And
yeah,
and Gordon is like, uh, his response to Dean spilling his grief is hang on to it. It'll make you a good hunter. It's good for
yeah, use
killing.
it.
Like,
Hmm.
and I'm just like, Sam would never tell you to do that.
Well,
Like,
yeah, it's not healthy to do that. And he
it's
says
not healthy.
it's not a crime to need your job. And I'm like, it's not unhealthy to need it though if it's hyper violent. Like that's like
Yeah.
saying like, these police officers who are like blowing off steam with by partaking in police brutality, like it's that. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it is
Mhm.
it is okay to need your job, but it is also not okay to use it in an unhealthy way, especially if your job is extremely violent, like hunting.
Yeah.
And I don't know, when Sam calls Ellen, it like made my heart jump because she was so excited to hear from him and she calls him sweetie.
I wrote that
And
down too.
it's just so sweet. Like she's like, "Hey, how are you doing, sweet?" I was like, "Oh my God." And it's really sweet to me. I said this whole scene was healing me. That he was like, "You know what? I need to like check the references on this Gordon guy because I don't trust him. I have an instinct. I have an intuition, but Dean's not gonna believe me. So I need to get some more like outside like influence on this." And I love that Ellen's like, "Oh, he's pretty nice. He's cool." And then immediately when she finds out they're working together, she's like, "No, no, no, don't do that. Don't do that."
Yeah. Like she turns away from the bar and is like, no, 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 no.
Mm-hmm.
Do not do
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yeah. And
Oh,
and of course he takes that to Dean, and Dean in this mindset that he's in right now where game face in front of Sammy, I can only be like vulnerable and like nice and like pleasant to strangers. He automatically still pushes back. He still does not want to hear it from Sam, despite even like the fact that Ellen knows tons of hunters. Ellen, like, probably has met the majority of them coming. I mean, I would assume it's a stop for most hunters,
Mhm.
going across the country and back all the time and that's a stop for
mhm.
everybody. And for him to be like, well, I don't trust her. It really just comes down to Dean not wanting to hear it and then deciding because he doesn't want to hear it that that is an unreliable source, which is kind of how he deals with everything. Like if he doesn't like it, then he's going to find a way for it not to be true or something he can ignore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I wrote down that one of the reasons why he's not talking to Sam is because in his gut, he realizes, that he's not necessarily coping with this the right way.
Yeah.
But if he talks to Sam, Sam is going to be that voice of reason. Ellen is that voice of reason, but as long as he doesn't, confront these things with Sam, he doesn't have to dig too deep into himself about it. And we find
100%.
that throughout the series.
Yeah.
Yes. I think it scared him what he was willing to do in the first season because he had stuff to lose, you know what I mean? And that's why he would do it. And now that he's lost part of that, that was maybe keeping him, keeping that from bursting forth. He's like, well, what's the point of holding back now? Because I've lost my dad,
Yeah.
and I want to need this because it's easier to do my job super well than it is to do the hard work of actually.
Mhm.
And he says that at the end of the episode. He's like, I wish we had never even come here now because now I'm all fucked up from what Gordon said and what you said. And now I have to actually think about like vampires like Lenore. I have to think about what I'm doing, and I'd rather just kill indiscriminately all monsters.
Mhm.
He
Yeah.
literally says that.
Yeah.
Um, let's talk about Lenore a little bit though. I really love her. Um, let me see. I always forget her name. Do you remember her name
Tara.
Buffa?
Am
Buffy? Yeah. So
Tara.
she plays Tara. What is her name? Amber
Amber
Benson.
Benson.
Right. So Amber Benson plays Lenore. She's fucking stunning, of course. She's in like a very early 2000s outfit. Like she's even wearing like a vest over a t-shirt. Like raise your hand if you've done that. I did that. All she needed was like a dress over her jeans and she would have been like
Don't
exactly.
call me out like that.
Hey, me too. I did
Yeah.
both at the same time. So but she has this dark hair. I almost didn't even recognize it was Amber Benson except for her big, beautiful eyes. But like she's very soft and very low spoken. And I think that's what I really love about her character is that she still seems to be the leader of this coven. So she's like she's small, she's beautiful, she's soft, and yet she commands respect and like, but not in like a violent way. She just is in charge and they listen to her.
Mhm.
And this is also when Sam is able to tell where he's at despite having been blindfolded or whatever, because he counts the minutes from turn to turn. And he, like, while he's got his, like a bag over his head, he just like feels the car going over a bridge, feels it turn. And that was one of
He
my,
counts.
yeah,
How
Yes.
do you know all this?
I
Sam kind of looks up.
counted.
To me, the look on his face is kind of like, I'm gonna say this, and Dina's gonna make fun of me for being a nerd, but I'm gonna say it anyway. I
Hmm.
counted, and I get the idea that that's where some of that Dean or Sam thinks Dean is an idiot comes from, because I think the
Hmm.
look on his face is getting interpreted as, how do you not know this? When to me,
Good.
it reads a lot more like,
Are you going to be mean to
you're
me?
gonna judge me for this.
Yeah, you're going to make fun of me for this? Yeah, I
Yeah,
could see that for sure.
yeah. But yeah, so he counted.
Hmm.
I have a narrative quibble with it. I love that Sam did that. I hate that Gordon still got there first.
Yeah.
Sam having this additional cool skill should have given them an advantage, and it doesn't get paid off with the
Well,
narrative. I understand why they have to do it to make the
can
rest
I
of the plot
speak to
go,
that?
but sure.
Because remember, Gordon has been all over this town before, long before them. So maybe he scouted out enough of it that when he heard a little bit of what Sam said the other day, I can go there. So like, I totally am with you, but I'm trying to give it like the benefit of the doubt in my mind that it could be in universe. It could make sense at least because he's been on the trail long enough that maybe he had more clues than they did and he
Yeah.
recognized what Sam
Mhm.
said and so he was able to go there
I think
faster.
Sam just said it was over the bridge, but I'm gonna go with your
Yeah.
thing anyway because it makes
Gordon
sense.
had even said that there were like 40 something
And
farms in the
he'd been through
area and he
half of them.
checked half
Yeah.
of them. Yeah.
Hmm.
So if there's one across the bridge that he hadn't gone to, he just goes right
Maybe.
to it and he gets there.
Maybe.
I don't
I don't
know.
know. You're probably right. I know that you're right because I know that the writers didn't think about it that deeply, but I'm like, well, maybe in universe, maybe Gordon like was like, oh, I remember there was this bridge that I, never
We'll
doubled
go
back
with
to
that.
or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll go with that because otherwise it just makes me, I just get annoyed because Sam's cool feat should have been paid off in some
Mhm.
way. And it wasn't. It was just paid off with Dean giving him some praise, which is also good.
I mean, at least they were able to get there. I mean, like
Yeah.
if you think about it, it does pay off in that he never has gone there on purpose. And the first time they try to, they find it. So
Hmm.
it's good. I will say, one of the comments I made about I didn't realize I had written this. I must have been pissed. I think I was drinking whiskey when I was watching this. I said the misogyny of Dean being like, why would we listen to Ellen when he literally met Gordon 17 minutes ago and is already having a hunter slumber party with him planning out the next hunt like it's a mash game with gel pens. Raise your hand if you've done mash game with gel pens.
We're all raising our hands.
We all are.
Oh
Yeah,
my
I
God.
was mad. But yeah, Sam's so intuitive to kind of point out like, look, dude, you really need to follow someone blindly. Like you followed dad, but you can't just let anyone step into that role. And I just was like, that was not what I would have read from Dean, but I'm not his brother, I'm not his sister. And I am at this point very angry at Dean, so I wouldn't be able to like find the empathy that Sam is able to connect to in order to understand that that's what Dean is trying to do. And I think it speaks to their childhood as Sam is observer of the dynamic between Dean and John for him to be able to clock it like that. And of course, then speaking of clocking it, as soon as Sam points that out, Dean cold clocks him in the face, just absolutely like it is such a sucker punch and it was so deeply hurtful to me to watch. I know you
Mhm.
guys feel the same. And whenever Sam kind of comes up from it is like, well, um, you you can hit me all you want. But
Right.
it's not
I
gonna
wrote
change things.
I wrote down that I knew this watching it through the first time, but Dean treats this abuse, this violence as transactional almost. Like I
And it's like that doesn't make it okay. That doesn't balance things out. Like it just means that now we're both hitting each other. And I love
Yeah.
that Sam doesn't really partake in that because he's like, it's not constructive. This isn't gonna help. Like all it does is make you feel better. But I don't want to be part of that.
Yeah.
Elle said that she got a blue screen, like her computer blue screened it is restarting. So we'll just keep going and she'll hop back in. But I want to hear from you, Christy, about this next line because I
Okay.
felt triggered as a woman alive in this patriarchal world. There's a moment where like Sam is begging Dean to like believe him about Lenore and being like, I just like experienced this. And he
Mhm.
says, just give me the benefit of the doubt. And I said, I feel triggered by the fact that Sam is coming to Dean with firsthand experience, an understanding that Dean does not have, knowledge that Dean does not have, and good sense, and is still being told he's crazy. And the answer is no.
Mhm. And not just that, but the dean is going to believe again the guy that they just met
Hmm.
over this firsthand world experience.
And the woman that he called to double check about Gordon. Hate
Hmm.
it. Hate
Hmm.
it. But yeah, I was definitely sitting there like, why does this feel so bad? And I was like, oh, it's because this specifically begging to be believed with every single bit of evidence in front of you is,
Right.
like handing this evidence over. It feels very familiar in a way I am uncomfortable with.
Right. And then, like, even after we still don't really get Dean believing him
Yeah.
until, he gets the firsthand experience himself of seeing Lenore like turn away from the blood.
Yeah. And it's so disgusting what Gordon does with Lenore. So
Yeah.
they have
Oh,
that.
it's ugh.
It's so, so bad. So they have that scene where they take us. I don't think they do this often. They do it in the cold opening a lot, but it's very rare that they'll take us away from one of the brothers, or both of the brothers to go to someone that is not connected to them just to show us their point of view. But they do it in this one where they're showing us what it's like at the nest when no hunters are present. And Lenore and the guy Ty plays, I don't remember his name. I'm just gonna call him Benny. Because one day he will be a vampire called
Benny
Benny.
1.0.
Yeah, in season 8, he'll be Benny 2.0. Um, but they're talking and they're having to decide how to live. Like they're basically just saying like they're going to come after us, like we should end them. And she's like, "Look, we can change. We've proven that we can change despite being vampires. I believe they can change as well."
Hmm.
And it like really hurt my feelings because I was like, they're genuinely trying so hard. And the narrative is at least on Sam's side
Yeah.
at this time, but we are still having to fight against the hard-headedness of Gordon and Dean and to keep them from being harmed. But I also said the vampires are so fragile. Like, why are they so fragile? Like, all it takes is dead man's blood. I guess I guess that's a big thing to actually acquire if you're just a normal person, but like every hunter can just like get dead man's blood, I feel like.
Just get
Yeah.
some
And
and
just
just
have
Yeah.
keep it
that in
with you,
stock.
like holy water.
Right. But then it's like that L is back now. Hooray. Um now we have the question like did Gordon kill someone to get this dead man's blood?
Yes.
Because right? He's the kind of person who would, right? He's the
And he'd
kind of
justify it.
yeah, 100%. Like I needed this like because he's not after evil. He's after a monster. He wants to kill. Like he's after a kill. So like it's not like he's trying to save people. It's not the family business, like it is with Sam and Dean, or it's supposed to be at least. It is his personal enjoyment of killing monsters, which is why eventually, spoiler alert, he will come after Sam because he perceives Sam as a monster in like season 3. But what they do to Lenore, and this is what I brought up that whole scene for, is genuinely torture. Like Gordon is literally
Yes.
torturing her and even tortures her to try to get Dean to side with him. Like, look, I'm gonna stab your brother and
Slice. Yeah.
drip his like blood, yeah, on his arm. He didn't like kill Sam, but like you guys know that you watched it. And the blood is just like dripping over her, and she can't help it. She's a vampire, but she fights against it. And I just am like, how can Dean let this continue at all? Like if I were Dean, I would have shot Gordon right then. When he
Yeah.
sliced Sam's arm. If I had me,
Yeah. He stabbed me and tried to feed me to a vampire, and you stood there trying to figure out which one of us was right.
like, why is it so easy for a stranger to be the guy that you side with over me? Why? What
Yeah.
is it what is it inside of you that is so upset with me or just like so like what did I do? That's what I would be thinking. Like, what did I do to make you side with someone we only just met when last like 5 episodes ago you would have killed for me? It's just so bizarre to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I also want to point out that scene where Lenore is having the blood dripping on her face and then
Hmm.
she turns away and says no
Hmm.
reminds me so much of a certain scene.
I know. I know. We need to make a gift set of this. There has to be a
Yeah.
fucking like parallel gift set. Okay, we're gonna see if Jess is interested in making this gift set because like
Yeah.
the Lenore scene, like side by side with the episode 5, season 5, episode 3 or whatever scene with Sam and the demon blood is like,
Yeah.
oh my God,
Yeah.
that's very much something up her alley. We'll ask her.
Absolutely.
That is such a good parallel. L, way to go. Just pointing stuff out I'd never thought about before. Um, okay, so at the end, they tie up Gordon, they leave him or whatever, because they're like, well, he's obviously a madman, even though Dean was acting just like him most of the episode. And I know it's supposed to be cute that Dean punches Gordon on the way out, but like I wrote, alas, I find it very disturbing that this is like immediately supposed to be a normal thing for him to do now that dad is gone and he's decided like how he's going to cope or rather not cope. And it's just like it like in one episode, it's like I punch my brother, I punch Gordon, it's cute, let's punch each other. Like I don't like this.
Right. And then the end scene too,
Yeah.
where he asks Sam to hit him.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and like it doesn't balance things out. He says, "Wish we'd
No.
never come here. It's jacked
Yeah.
everything up." And I'm like, it hasn't jacked up anything. Your original view was what was jacked up, and now
Yeah.
you're having to sit
Now you
with,
can make better decisions going forward. That's not
yeah.
jacked up. That's good.
No, it just makes
It's
things harder for him because he'd
I
rather
know.
it be easier.
I just
He wishes he could stay ignorant to nuance because it's easier.
Mhm.
And this
yeah.
is why our country's in the situation it's in. Like people would rather stay ignorant to nuance, so it's easier to make a decision on how to vote or what to stand for than to actually learn something and like maybe realize, oh, there are things that I don't understand that I probably should understand better.
Right, to
Yeah.
live in that gray area rather than the black and white that Gordon and Dean talk about.
Yeah.
It's harder, but it's right.
Well, and yeah, it's of course easier to think of everything as black and white, but that isn't reality. Reality is not black and white. It is not
Mm.
one way or the other. So I don't know. Get fucked, Gordon. Um,
I will say I did laugh when Dean
What is lunch has been delivered to me.
oh, tell Alex we said
I, I
hi.
They say
loved him
hi.
trying to sneak in.
That's so sweet.
I
At
got a
first I
good
was like,
one.
no, did Elle, because I was on my notes. I just heard her stop talking. I was like, did she fall out of the Zoom call again? But
I
she
fell
was
into the
just
abyss.
she was silenced by a sandwich.
I didn't know if that was going to be something you would want to like cut out, so I didn't want to say
Oh, it's fine. Like I can
things.
literally edit anything out if it doesn't
Okay.
matter. So don't worry about it.
So what was I saying? Oh, there's an exchange of like violence in this episode where Dean Dean does the thing where he just is like, okay, I'm walking away, and then punches Sam, catches him completely off guard. And
Mhm.
then Gordon does the same thing to Dean.
Mm-hmm.
And then Dean has to do the same thing back to Gordon, only it's not making him think that there's not a punch coming. It's more forcing him to not be able to prepare for it by the fact that he's tied up in a chair, right? Like
Yeah.
there's these exchanges where the person getting punched cannot brace themselves. They are
Yeah,
utterly defenseless.
it's not a fight. It's a
Right.
it's a it's
Punishment.
well, yeah, it's a sucker punch. And
Yeah.
I don't like that that's Dean's kind of thing. And that's what's scary is that it makes him unpredictable in a way where it's like he just hit Sam. Oh no. And now we have to like wait for that maybe to happen more. And that's fucked up.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end, I do want to make note that Dean he does say, like, I'm starting to worry, that the way I'm programmed has rotted me to the core. Like dad has programmed me in such a way that I'm afraid that like maybe I can't be deprogrammed and maybe this is just how I am. And that bothers him, which I'm like, thank God, because it was really seeming like he wasn't bothered. And so I was glad it's a bother to him,
Right.
at
He
least for
says,
now. Like he
right.
Yeah,
will
at this
embrace it
moment.
fully eventually, but
But here in this moment, he says, I would have killed them all.
mhm.
And Sam says, but you didn't.
Yep.
That's what matters. Almost
Yeah.
like it only matters what you do. Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, it's your choice.
It's your choice.
And Dean thanks Sam for being a pain in the ass. He's like, you keep me human. Like literally,
Mhm.
Sam is what tethers Dean to his humanity at
Yeah.
this point. And
And I
that
think
is so ironic because
that's a theme
eventually,
that continues for a little while. But
yeah.
yeah.
But it's ironic because eventually Dean will see Sam as a monster despite his humanity,
Yeah.
and I love this episode for all of those like parallels and like back and forths and him, but I know it won't last. But I love that this point he's acknowledging like Sammy keeps me human,
Yeah.
even though Sam might have supernatural elements about his physiology or whatever because of the demon blood from when he was a baby. He's the human one. I'm the one who needs to be pulled back.
Mhm.
Okay, we did it. Are you guys ready to rate this one?
I'm
Yes.
just
Oh
scanning through
yeah.
to see if I have any
Yeah, let's
last.
do final thoughts and then we'll rate episode 3 of season 2.
I did have a point about Dean and Gordon's black and white talk after
Mm,
Sam leaves.
yeah.
Um, so of course Dean brings up Sam
Hmm.
because of course he does. He's not there and he knows Sam would disagree, so he just says Sam would not agree with you.
Yep. He says
And
Sammy, I think.
yeah, he said I don't think Sammy would agree
Such a
with you.
shit.
Um, but and in other, I think in other moments it would come off to me that he says it out of annoyance, like he's agreeing with Gordon. But
Mhm.
here, even if a little bit of that is happening, it also seems like he's almost testing Gordon a little bit. Like he's more put off by Gordon's response to it that Sam isn't like them.
Yeah.
And we know
Mhm.
he takes at least slight offense to it because Gordon backpedals immediately to say Sam's not wrong, just different. So I think that for me, that's where Dean starts getting a whiff of Delulu coming off of Gordon. To me, it's that
Yeah.
moment where he
I could
he,
see
he kind of
that.
like tests it by saying, I don't think Sam would agree. What's your response? I'm watching you, kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Side eye a little bit.
A little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think
Hmm.
by the end, that's why Dean is like, thank you. Thank you for
Hmm.
not
Mhm.
agreeing. Thank you for being the one who can pull me back. Even though he was such a pain in the ass to Sam the whole episode. He was so mean to Sam the whole episode.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a lot of that is like percolating in his head, even when he's talking to Gordon, the things that Sam has already said have already got him thinking.
Hmm.
And so when Sam's not there, he's like, maybe some part of Sam needs to still be here in this conversation. So he's the one who brings it up, even though Sam's excused himself.
Yeah.
I don't know. Or maybe I'm just being really generous. I don't know.
It's okay. We can be generous this early in the series. We
I
Yeah.
was
still we
gonna
have a
say right now, yeah. Later
Yeah.
on, yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
later
and
on we'll lose a lot of those sweet
that,
feelings.
oh, also when Gordon is like, all right, you're fine. You're right. I am torturing her. Let's just put it out of its misery. And he
Mm,
looks at Sam and he says, with his knife, and he says, I just sharpened it, so it's completely humane.
I forgot about
Like,
that.
it's
Yeah.
such a dig at how he knows Sam feels about this because he doesn't care if it's humane. And he knows that it's not gonna appease Sam. So he's just that is just purely to dig at
It's
Sam.
more psychological. He's torturing everyone around him that doesn't agree,
Yes.
and he's
Oh,
testing to see how it's
yeah.
fucked up.
Oh,
Right.
it's so messed up. So messed up.
I know. Christy, do
Anyway.
you have any final thoughts before we rate them?
I don't know that I do. I just have multiple notes about how this show probably didn't deserve Sterling K. Brown. He really like put the effort into this episode.
He's fantastic.
He's on some of my favorite episodes, though.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Oh
He's
yeah.
so compelling as an actor. I'm just so glad that he's like an Emmy, Golden Globe, like winning actor now. He's fantastic. All right, let's rate this, y'all. Okay, every time we rate an episode that's this heavy for wardrobe, I'm like, well, this is stupid, but that's what we're doing. So, what did you guys think about Bloodlust? We got our descriptors are horrendous, adorable, genuinely good, or terrible but great. Let's start with L. We're gonna go in that order because that's on my document. That's what order we're in.
Um, I have to look at the scale again. I I was too distracted by everything else happening, but the fact that I took one screenshot of how pretty Sam was in one scene and like
Yeah.
stuck it into my notes makes me want to at least be straight up adorable, if not, well, I'll do adorable and augment it with hard eyes later.
Okay. What about you, Christy? What do you think?
I put adorable. Mostly I wanted to give him credit for that really good outfit. For whatever reason, the outfit when they were in the morgue really like
I love them.
did it for me.
Did it for you?
Yeah,
I
the
put
white coats are
adorable.
good. The white coats are good.
Oh yeah, they are good.
I gave it a terrible but great because of that hideous up and down stripe gray ass baby blue thing. I hate that shirt. It's the one I always say looks like they sat it in the back seat of the Impala in the like back window and it faded with the sun and it's covered in it's just ugly, ugly. But both of the costume changes immediately after, including the beige suit and the slick back hair, like made up for that for me. So I was like, we have a terrible, but also some great. So like it isn't terrible but great, but it's terrible separate with great. And so that's what I did.
Terrible / great.
Terrible and great.
Yeah.
All right. Our Sam fan friendly scale is 1 to 5. We've got 3 different sections: screen time, enjoyment, and hard eyes to be averaged together. Let's start with Elle. For screen time for Bloodlust, what did you give this episode?
I am going with like a 4.3, I think, because while we get
This is my me and Rachel mug. I got it for her when she came to visit for Canada. I got myself one too.
Aw.
I should have grabbed my Sam one since we were recording today.
Mm. Mm.
Hmm.
Mm.
Okay. Oh my God. Are those ghost cats on your shirt?
They are.
Christy's ready for spoopy season.
It's fall. That's my entire wardrobe now.
Hell yeah. That's our witchy woman. All right. So my screen time rating is a 4.4. So mine's like right in the middle of y'all's.
I think I can average that.
Yeah, it literally is exactly 4.4. And so
That's funny.
we all agree. Like it is good screen time. Even if it's not a Sam, it's Sam adjacent and it affects him. And so it's good screen time for sure. How about enjoyment for Bloodlust? Elle, what did you rate enjoyment?
I rated that a 4.5.
Mm-hmm.
Just because there's tied up Sam and lots of good Sam ideology
Yeah.
getting put out there. Like I just really enjoy, and even the scenes where it's just Dean and Gordon,
Mm-hmm.
like Sam is present
Yes.
in that scene
Mm-hmm.
because he's kind of like a focal point of it as a representative of the person who disagrees with
Yeah.
them.
He's definitely a looming presence in that
Yeah.
conversation.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Christy, what did you give your enjoyment score?
I gave it a 4.2, kind of the same reasons.
Yeah.
Like this was a really good episode for him, but we did also have to see him get punched in the face.
True. Yeah, we don't love that. We do not enjoy that. I mean, I feel like Elle, you enjoy that when it's not Dean doing it.
Yeah.
So,
I enjoy it when it's a bad guy doing it. I don't enjoy it when the person doing it is not supposed to be a bad guy.
yeah. I gave it a 4.7. I gave it kind of a higher score than you guys on enjoyment, mostly because again, if if Dean is giving us some more that is going to help us understand the dynamic between them and their childhood, and then like where Dean is coming from and how he affects Sam, I always really enjoyed that. It's the opposite of when that happens with John. Like I score it low on enjoyment when John's doing it, but for some reason when it's Dean, like I'm just really invested and interested. And I also just really enjoyed this episode, period, because I really love Gordon as a character. I think he's fascinated. I love Lenore as a character. I loved Lenore and Sam's interaction and that they had a moment, the two of them, and plus
Yeah.
Ty Olson back in the background together. Like that was cool to me. So I really like that. All right, our last one is Heart Eyes. Elle, what did you give this one for Heart Eyes?
I gave this one a 4.6. Because I fully took a screen cap of a cute the screen cap that I took is when he first like wakes up or they take a bag off of his head, whatever happens when he first wakes up after being kidnapped. And it's like he's like, I don't know what look he has on his face, but he's like, it's an adorable look, and he's got a little pointy nose, and it's just
he's like, what's happening? It's very
well,
cute.
but he's like calculating about it too. Like, okay, I have been taken. What are all the details I need to know? And also, I'm kind of scared right now.
Yeah, he's like, am I needing to like defend myself immediately?
Mm-hmm.
Send me that
So,
screen cap. I'll put it in the visuals.
Okay.
Cool. Christy, what did you score Hard Eyes for you?
I actually only gave it a 4. I don't know what my logic for this was. I just
It just
Like,
felt right.
yeah, a
That's
few
fair.
good squishy faces, but
Totally. He has a lot of cute little squishy faces in this one.
Squishy faces are my
Mm-hmm.
kryptonite.
Mm-hmm. I gave it a 4.5. I think I really love him in the costumes and the moments with like the squishy faces and like the bucket joke where he feels like he's gonna vomit. But I think I just love him standing on business emotionally, like setting boundaries mentally, like not budging on what he believes is right, despite technically being ganged up on in this episode. Like it is hard to look two people in the face who are saying murdering is fun and just be like, okay man, well I'm out, like I just really loved that he fought for Dean and he didn't give Gordon the time of day, and I think that was a really hard situation to navigate and he did a great job. So, my average for this episode was a 4.5. L, yours was a 4 point snaps for us. Are you guys ready to move on to season 2, episode 4? Children shouldn't play with dead things.
Yep.
yes.
My God, this one is Panic at the Disco record. Um, yeah, I
You're gonna
watched
cut
that
this part
this
out, right?
morning. Yes, I am. Where is my notes? My notes are not in here, but I definitely took notes. Okay, well, I didn't skip it then. I just don't know where my notes are. I was like, wait a second. Oh my God, how? Okay, just kidding. Gonna cut all that out. We are
Good.
we're redoing this. Okay. Children shouldn't play with dead things is about. See, this is why I got confused. I was getting confused with Neil and Andy.
Ah,
They're,
Oh,
do you see what I'm saying? They're
I
very
can see that.
similar to me.
Yeah.
Okay, so Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things is a story about a girl who dies, and it's very tragic. And then it seems like other deaths are happening around her, and the boys come in to work on this case. And it turns out that she's like a zombie, like someone has kept her alive. The boys at one point, well, I should say Dean at one point thinks it's her father, and that turns out not to be true. And we find out that it is her um friend Neil, who I think the narrative is trying to say is like friend zoned. But I think friend zone is misogynist, so I shan't be talking about it in those terms. And he is actually keeping her in the basement, having resurrected her. And she is killing people who wronged her in life, which is like by the end, they said it right. I'm leaving out a lot. Guys, help me out with the recap if I forgot anything really important, because we're going to dig into what the boys talk about
I
otherwise.
think what's interesting is the way that this episode kind of starts with the case is they don't go into town looking for the case.
Mm-hmm.
They're like looking at a different one when Sam wants to make a detour to stop by their mom's grave,
Yeah.
That's the beginning. Yeah.
right?
Okay. And then
Yes.
he sees,
Yeah,
Dean
and
sees
Dean
that.
sees.
Mm-hmm. You're right.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Yeah, that's a huge one we have to talk about. Okay, let's just dig in. Let's just start there. So immediately bad vibes from the cold opening, because I remember seeing Neil's face and being like, okay, that guy's a creep. I know he's a creep.
I wrote, Neil has I believe in the friend zone written all over him.
I
Incel
wrote
vibes.
I wrote mid-2000 incel vibes.
Yes. Hi. Is that true? Or am I
I don't
lying?
remember.
I
Well,
I
think
don't
they
remember
go
that
in
part.
pretending to be cousins to talk to the roommate.
you're right.
That's what it is.
I'm
Yeah.
so flustered. Can you guys tell? I like can't remember a thing. You know what happened? My notes are on here. Somehow the title of the episode got like deleted.
Oh.
So it looks like I just had a ton of notes over this episode, but I don't.
I
It's
was gonna
fine.
say I don't have a ton for this episode. Like it is a
No.
really good episode, but
Yeah, it's just kind of straightforward, except for like when the boys kind of get into it with each other. And
Yeah.
I said like Dean is so mean about Sam wanting to do a very normal thing, which is visit his mother's grave. Like, what's wrong with you, man? Like, and like I know that what's wrong with him is that a lot. But damn, like Sam doesn't want to deal with things exactly how Dean wants to. And so Dean is going to try to make Sam feel like an idiot because of how he wants to deal with these things, which is actually a very normal way to want to deal with these deaths, is to visit your mother's grave, even if her body isn't buried there, like even if it's just a symbol, he wants to go there.
And
And
return a part of dad. Like he
Yeah.
yeah,
returns
He's
dad's
got
dog tag.
dad's, yeah, he buries them at her grave.
and it's lovely. It's so sweet. Like he talks to her, mom, dad would want you to have these. Like it's very sweet. And Sam even makes it very clear. Like he's like, hey, it would be fine if I go alone. I'll hitch a ride and I'll meet you back at the
I'll meet you
roadhouse.
there. Mhm.
And instead, Dean has to stay along, tag along to make the whole thing miserable for both of them. And I'm just like, grow up. Like you're acting like a little bitch. Like it's so annoying.
So I have a slightly different take on that moment. My take
Um,
is that he actually does want to go. So, because the excuse he comes up with for why Sam shouldn't go alone, I think, what is it? He doesn't like half the people at the Roadhouse or something like that.
Yeah, it's just like
It's a
every option he's
flimsy,
given, he's like,
dumb,
no,
it's
no.
a flimsy, dumb, lame excuse. So the take that I got was he really does want to go, but he can't admit that he wants to go, or like this gets into chick flick territory, which is another thing I could do without, but
Fellas, is it gay to love your mom? Like, what are we talking about? Is it gay to love your dead mom?
You notice that he doesn't go to mom's grave. Like he
no,
Yeah.
he doesn't.
stays
He stays
right by the
away.
car.
Yeah.
He
Like
like,
he wants
yeah.
to be there, but he doesn't want to be
Mhm.
there.
I think he doesn't want to be there at all. I think he's just being a bitch. But I'm giving him less grace in this moment because it's such a weird thing to be like, wow, what's wrong with you? It's like, my mom died and I'm sad. Like that's normal. This is a normal thing to do.
Yeah.
You're being weird. You're weird, Dean. You're weird.
I do
So
think it's so sweet of Sam to have such strong ties to Mary when he didn't grow up
mhm.
with her. Like he essentially never met his mom.
Mhm.
And yet he's like the one of the first things he wants to do after his dad dies is go reunite them.
Yeah.
Like
Oh, so sweet.
it's just so sweet, and like just this kind of like pure loyalty kind of thing in him.
And it's
Um
not about him, like it's
no.
it's about them. And like
Yeah.
he might want to keep dog tags because he loves his dad, but he feels it's better for them to be together now.
Mhm.
I'm really shocked that they didn't give this sentimental like angst-filled kind of moment to Dean. I'm shocked that Sam has John's dog tags
Yeah,
and
we're
Sam,
early, and that's why we get this. And we're
yeah,
Mhm.
early in the scene.
because this would be in 4 seasons, this would be Dean's scene, hands down. They wouldn't even consider which brother should we give this scene to. Like,
Well, and it's so sad that Sam has to do this on his own. They could share in this, but Dean is such a wet blanket about it for no reason except he just wants to lash out. And
yeah,
it's to me, it's double sad for me to watch Sam do this by himself because it's like he lost his parents and he's trying to find a way to grieve and his brother's being a dick about it. And I get that he's doing that because he himself is the thing about it is Dean's way of dealing with things is making it harder on Sam. Sam's way of dealing with things is just is his thing. He's not forcing Dean into anything. He's not I don't know. It just pisses me off. I don't like it. You can make an argument that Sam was being pushy in episode 2, I think. Like, you kind of yelling at Dean, like, you need to deal with this, but he's not doing that anymore. He's just saying, I'm going to do this. You don't have to partake if you don't want to. And Dean has to make it harder on Sam for no reason. Happened though at the two of them did at the graveyard that I've seen on my dash many times. He has the sparkly princess eyes, I think is
oh
like
yeah,
the
the princess
hashtag.
eyes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And then there's one where like he realizes the circle of dead grass and he turns and he walks. It's a full body shot and his blue shirt blows back away from his black t-shirt and he has like fluffy hair and blinky bright eyes. I've seen that gift set so many times. So I think this is a heavy hitter for Dean Stans.
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
Mhm. So, Sam is certain that Dean is trying to deflect about mom's grave. He's being more gentle than he was. but gently offers to Dean, like, hey, do you need to take another swing? Like, what are we doing? You know what I mean? Like,
I hate that, but
I know.
yes.
But he's like, is that gonna make you feel better? And I said, I hate this new dynamic. But Dean is like, no, I'm gonna go drink alone. And he's just stonewalling, which again is so toxic. And so, like, Dean is just, he has this hormonal 16-year-old girl who is just like mad at the world. And Sam's just like, okay, like he's trying to gentle parent Dean.
It's funny, yeah. Well, and of course, Sam has every reason to believe that he's right about what he's thinking is happening. Because he's right, it is super weird that they go just to visit their mom's grave and there's a happens to also be a case there. That's weird.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Dean, are you sure you're not seeing things where you want to see them?
Mm-hmm.
Puppy. So he has every reason to believe that he's right about this, and he's wrong.
Episode. Like, looks like I was right. You know, like he can't just be like there were times in season one where like he could be like, well, guess what? This happened. So I guess I was right. Now he has to be so like aggressive. And
Because I think it has to do with his emotions.
yeah,
Like
it's
Sam
not
is,
selling the I'm
yeah,
fine vibe. He's trying to make it,
yeah.
happen. But
Sorry, I
go
keep
ahead.
having to mute because their dog keeps walking over here on the hardwood floor.
I love
Click,
him.
click, 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 click.
Little tippy tappies.
Tip, tap, tap.
So finally, Dean's whole like issue comes out in this episode, right? He's having a meltdown with Dad, where they go and they confront Dad, and Sam's kind of like, I don't want to be. This isn't my idea. But Dean storms right in and is like, we found these Greek runes or whatever Latin. You're a Latin professor or whatever. Well, Greek or Latin, I
Greek,
cannot remember. It was
Greek.
Greek.
Great.
Great, and like he was like, I know that you did this. And he says, what's dead should stay dead. And so it's clear that it's not just about Dad. It is about the fact that he believes he is unworthy to be alive instead of his dad. And that's a much deeper pain than I think grief is. And I think that is where we stand about why Dean is so deeply disturbed and angry. I don't think he's just angry at the situation. I think he hates himself to the core because he's alive and Dad is not.
Yeah.
Well, that and of course, like the foreshadowing, the way that ties into how often we hear that about,
Mhm.
when someone's gone, they should stay gone. You don't mess with that.
Yeah,
Like,
100%. And yet they will over and over again mess with that. And
Whew.
I just really love the aftermath of that moment. He like he Sam pulls Dean out of that house because the dad's like, I'm calling the police. And Sam's like, we're sorry, we're sorry. He pulls him out. And then Sam is trying to do the wide wingspan thing while walking sideways, like at Dean, which is like, again, we love the wide wingspan like moment, but I was like, you can't, I don't know if you can do it walking. But it would have been adorable if the moment wasn't so fraught.
mhm.
But Dean is fucked up, like straight to the core. And Sam is like really insightful for being able to kind of identify that Dean is hungry to kill something to keep from feeling any of the grief that, you know, he just followed any lead that he saw and he jumped the gun with this poor grieving father. So like again, we're getting a balance, right? Like Sam is wrong, but now Dean is wrong. But Dean
Right.
will like not listen. Like Sam is like begging him, like, please just listen. Like, because we're all each other has. You have to be listening. You have to listen to me. Like we're it. And
Is this the you refuse to talk about it and you won't let me help you scene?
I think so.
He
Yeah.
says, I can take care of myself, thinks. And Sam says, no, and you can't. And you're the only one who thinks you should
Mhm.
have to.
And yeah, he's like, you have to let me be part of this because I've lost Dad, I've lost Jess. I don't want to lose you. Like we're all each other has essentially.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. He says, and now I'm going to lose you too. And he has these like sad eyes. I think that's
Mhm.
the moment where Dean kind of breaks a little bit
Yeah, he's
because
like,
he's got his like
damn, that's my little
big old
brother.
Rapunzel eyes. And then
Mhm.
he says
Yeah,
something like, I
I
hear
said
you, man.
I
I'm
said
being
it's
an ass and I'm sorry.
Yes,
Oh.
I said it's really wild how Dean's eyes can still be so pretty and sparkly in the middle of being such a prick. You know?
Yeah.
And he says that beautiful line that you just said. I'm sorry I talked over you a little bit, but like, he's like, yeah, you're right. And then they start talking about the case and he goes, our lives are weird, man. And I was like,
Yeah.
points were
That's
made. It
That's
is
the
weird.
conciliation. That's the point where they kind of come back together, I think.
Yeah. No, and you guys can tell me if you agree with me or not, but I said too many college students live in houses in this show. Like, how are they doing this? How are they doing
Yes.
this?
Yes.
yep.
So, when they finally like are able to catch the zombie in the act, I think, and stop her, and Sam has he's like catching the victim of she was going to be killed by the zombie, and he's just like cradling her like, I gotcha. And I was like I was just like, if I had to be chased by a zombie, worth it. Like he's so gentle and loving with her. It's so sweet. I said my hard eyes will be large because I just love everything about Sam in this episode. Like,
Well, then it's kind of just I guess they just leave her.
yeah, I think
Oh,
at
They
one
just
you're
like
right
point
walk
he's
now.
out.
like
Good luck.
he's
All
like
right, bye.
holding up a gun, but his face is like the sweetest face, but he's like got a gun, and I was like, so sweet with a gun. Like, it's just very confusing.
I'd be confused. Yeah.
So, so the next thing I talk about, and y'all stop me if y'all have anything to add, because I'm just kind of running through my notes. But I said, wait, Dean pulls the car over to actually say, I'm sorry. This is a moment we must all celebrate and commemorate for
Yep.
eons to come, because it is so rare that he's like, you know what? I'm
Mhm.
sorry. You're right. I'm sorry how I've been acting. My God, like episode 4 of season 2 will go down in history for Sam
We
fans,
got an apology.
and a real one.
A real one. A
Mhm.
full on, this is important enough. I need to stop the car along the side of the road and get out of it
Mhm. Mhm.
so we
Mhm.
can have this conversation. The whole recognizing that John was Sam's dad too, and now that
Yes.
because of Dean,
Mhm.
Sam doesn't have a dad.
Mhm. And I like that he made the clarification though first that I'm sorry for how I've been acting. It's not just this like, I'm not going to call it a pity party because he's justified in how he feels, but it's not just this like martyrdom that he's setting up, like, sorry, I'm so deeply wounded by the fact that it's my fault. It's also, no, I'm fucking up because I'm being a dick. And I love that he says both, like,
Yeah.
because we never get that again. We never get a Dean who says, sorry, genuinely for how I'm mistreating you. It will always in the future be a martyrdom apology.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
starts to go downhill not long after this episode, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they don't know that it's a demon deal. They just can tangentially make the connections because they're not brain dead. But their father just left them behind with to fend for themselves through all this trauma. Like Dean says, I never should have come back. It's not natural. And now look what's come of it. I was dead and I should have stayed dead. I'm like, tell that to season 8, Dean. But whatever, it's fine. And so he's like, you want to know how I was feeling? Like Sam has been trying to get that out of him for 3 straight episodes. And he says, well, that's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And
Because it goes deeper than just grief. It's not
Mhm.
just grief. It's a thing that as long as he avoids this conversation,
Mhm.
he can kind of believe that Sam doesn't know yet. Although
Yeah.
he admits in this conversation, come on, I know you've been thinking it too.
Yeah.
Like,
Sam would never have ever said that. But Dean's like,
he never would have.
I know you well enough to know that you would think through that.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, we know Sam would choose Dean over John any day. So it's not like he's upset.
He's
And
already
Right.
done it,
yeah,
like at
many
least
times.
twice.
And John made the choice. And Sam, I think, is very level-headed when it comes to stuff like that, when it's pragmatic logic. Like if it were the other way around, Dean might blame Sam, but I don't believe Sam would ever blame Dean for John making that choice to save Dean.
Yeah.
Am I wrong? I mean, like, I feel like
No, I totally agree. Yeah.
not to be, not to try to take Dean down. I mean, be like,
Mm-mm.
and say he'd be mean if it were him, but he would
They
not be
just
able to separate
they
that, I don't
respond to
think.
stuff like that in different ways.
Yeah.
Mm.
We end this episode with a single man tear.
Of course.
And it's beautiful. Like Jensen plays the ending gorgeous. And I said the boys are acting the hell out of this shit. Season 2 is it, girl. I am seated. So we're ready to rate this episode.
Are we?
We're done. Let's do final thoughts and then we can rate it.
Oh, okay.
I forgot that this is the episode where Jared breaks his
Breaks
arm.
his arm. Mm-hmm.
I always wish I
A wrist. And I'm like,
suffered through the lack of cast. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, are you
Oh
sure?
gosh. I will say I had a couple of things. Let me help you. Blah, blah, blah,
Ba, ba, ba,
blah.
ba. Do your waiting song from when you waited for me to get the DVDs.
That's just the Jeopardy song, I think. Oh no.
I think you were
Yeah, no,
doing
it's the girl from Ipanema. Okay, so first of all, the scene where they go confront Neil and they guess that she's there just hiding.
Yeah.
And so Dean lays the trap. He like takes the opportunity to be like, okay, this is great. I'll lure her to the grave. But the fact that Neil has done the terrible thing and Dean is still like, and I think you should come with us. Like he's trying to save Neil, even though Neil is the guy who brought her back and did the bad thing. Like
Mm-hmm.
and then he's like, Neil won't come. Okay, get out of here as soon as you can and don't make her mad. Like he knows what's going to happen and he's trying. And the tension in that scene is so tight without even seeing the monster.
Yeah.
I feel like that was so well done. So well done. And also when they're setting up the fake ritual that they have to, trick her with, it's like they've got all these candles, and I'm like, did they go to like a little candle shop? Did a little old lady go, why are they buying all these candles? Did they just go to Target and pick the ones that smelled the best? Or like they just like have big, did they steal? Did they shoplift them?
I love
Like
the
how did
idea
they
of them
get all these
going to
candles?
Target.
I was like,
They're like getting Target. They're getting some like last minute purchases
they walk in
at the
for
like,
candles
register. Yeah.
and they leave with $300 worth of stuff on some other
Yeah.
person's credit card.
Lots of gum that they didn't
Yeah.
need. Yep.
I also love episode 3. We literally get a monster saying, I'm still me, I'm still a person, to Sam, who's that, and
Mm-hmm.
he shoots her anyway. I
He
mean, he
has
knows it won't
to.
kill her,
Mm-hmm.
so it's not
That's
like
the
a huge
point.
thing, but
That's the part where I said he has a real sweet face, but he's holding a gun. Like he's very like
yes.
sweet fairy. I'm gonna shoot you.
Yeah, yeah. And then of course he breaks his arm. And I was watching, like, he kind of like falls and then he kind of like doesn't get back up like super immediately. And I'm like, I think that's when it happened.
Yes.
That's when it
Yeah.
happened. So yeah, I think also does this episode have a shirt that you guys hate? Is it that like faded weird
Oh
design
yeah. I did make a
shirt?
note of that. I said I do hate the shirt Sam is wearing at the end. It's cursed because they introduced Ruby as Jen for the first time in episode 1 of season 4. And I'm like, that
Mm.
shit is still here. Like I hate it's also in the Christmas special.
Oh yeah.
It's like the inside out, like weird paisley. It's very strange. I don't know.
It's a weird shirt.
It's
It's a weird
ugly.
shirt. I liked it the first time around and now I'm kind of anti it. So
God,
I
I
don't
hope
know
I
if
can get you on my side for rusty bacon one day.
oh,
Like
that's
this
not
is
gonna happen.
I
That's
hate
not
that
gonna
shit.
happen.
Anyways,
All
we've
right.
got let's rate this shit. We've got 6 minutes left on this one.
We can
Let's
do it.
just do it. We can do it. Okay. So let's do wardrobe descriptor. Elle, what did you think? Horrendous, adorable, genuinely good, or terrible but great?
I forgot the scale again, so I just wrote Sam's shirt no. So I think
Horrendous.
horrendous.
I love that for you. What about you, Christy? What do you think?
Wow. I'm
Oops.
gonna go the complete opposite way, and I put genuinely good. There's the outfit he is wearing right at the start, like at mom's grave with the sleeves rolled up. That
It's
just looks
beautiful.
Mm,
so
I do love a
good.
rolled sleeve.
Yeah, I said the same thing about that. I said it's I do really like this plaid Sam has on too because I genuinely like that shirt. And I was like, I
Mm.
like that shirt so much, I'm not going to change my rating despite the fact that I fucking hate the shirt at the end. Okay, so let's do our Sam fan friendly scale starting with L. Screen time, what did you give this episode?
I wrote and I don't know, I don't remember why. So I think I'm gonna give it like a 3.7.
Okay. What about you, Christy?
Sorry, this freaking dog. Um, I gave it a 3.25, and I don't remember why. It was
Hmm.
fine.
Yeah, it was fine. I gave it a 4.6 because I thought again it was very similar to me the last episode, but there was more of Sam in this one. And
Mm.
we got to see him on screen getting to like have private moments grieving over his parents, which I think we rarely get.
That's true.
And I feel like you said, like we never get that. It's usually Dean. And I really thought that was important to highlight. So I give it 4.6. Um, let's go to enjoyment. Elle, how much did you enjoy this episode?
I wrote um
Maybe you were drinking whiskey during this one.
maybe I was. Maybe I was. Um I think I'm gonna go with what did I do on the last one, 3.5, because I think it's a little higher than that.
It's
Like
3.7, you
3
said.
3.7. Okay, so
Mhm.
I'll go with a 4.
Okay.
Um because I also did enjoy the time that we did have him on screen,
Yeah.
the moments with Dean and the moments at Mom's grave.
Yeah.
I liked those.
Mhm.
Christy, how about you?
I also gave it a 4. I think mostly for the episode at the beginning,
Hmm.
and like there's an argument that they have. I think Sam actually gets to say, "Are you high?" Like
Yeah,
it's just
I
such
love
a
that line.
it's such a fun scene that
His
that
face
moves
when he
the
says
entire
it,
thing. Yes.
so great.
Oh my God, I love that. I gave it a 4.5 for enjoyment. I really just really enjoyed this episode, despite Dean being what he is in this. I think it's extremely important. And again, I just really enjoyed Sam getting to have moments where again he's setting boundaries, he's being consistent. I don't know. I liked it a lot. I liked it a lot. Okay, our final one is heart eyes. Elle, how big were your heart eyes?
I went with I wrote but I'm going with a 4.3 for the conversation. You refuse to talk about it and you won't let me help you. That
Yes.
that whole conversation where he's just like, I'm laying it out, lay it out to me too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Christy, what did you give it?
I gave it a 3.75. Again, it was good, but eh.
That's fair. Lots of from you guys. I must have just loved this episode. I gave it a 4.8 for Hard Eyes. I love that shirt at the beginning. Just beautiful. I liked
Hair.
his hair was great. The sweetest face. And that moment where he's cradling that victim and telling her, I got you.
Um,
I got you. Like
Yeah.
you cannot make me love him more unless he is like Soulless Sam doing that shit. Like that is my favorite thing is like his big, beautiful hands just like gently allowing a victim to know that they're okay. That is like always going to get a high score from me.
I
That's
get it.
fair.
Yeah, I
Right?
get it.
Guys, we did it. Episode
Woo!
3, no, episode 2 of season 2 is over.
Hooray!
Woo! Thank you
Awesome.
guys for coming and hanging out with me. And honestly, I'll see you both very soon because we're going to record the next episode in an hour.
Awesome. See you
Okay.
then.
Bye.
Bye.